Happy Friday, and thanks for tuning in to RadioFreeRhinecliff.org. In this show in particular, correct me if I'm Norm, I'm your host, Norm, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight with Michele Linnen. Hey, Michele.
Good evening, Norm.
Good evening, or good afternoon, or whatever.
Whatever it is, it feels like evening.
Yeah, I know. I don't like when it gets dark
so
earlier. No, and I don't mind the dark, but I like a longer day. I want more of all of it. I just want a 30-hour day. More night, more daylight, all of that. Well, thanks for coming. Now, you came, we were talking about this a little before we went on. You're here because you wrote in.
Yes.
And why, I'm curious, over the years, people go to the website, they see the email, press a button, they write in. Why did you write in?
Well, I like what you're doing. I think it's fantastic, and it was very compelling. So I'm kind of a person who will knock on all doors and see if any open. And
right.
So I sent the email attached to Daily Catch, I believe, and just, I think, gave a little snippet about myself and what shenanigans I'm up to in little Rhinebeck village.
Yeah.
And you responded.
Yeah, well, yeah, I tried to.
This is great.
and we finally, after a lot of back and forth, finally worked it out, and here you are. And thanks again for being here. You said you like what I'm doing, but as I looked into what you're doing, I'm like, oh, she's doing what I'm doing, but in real time with real people.
Yeah, in person, yeah.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. It's the exact same thing. I never thought of that, but yeah.
Well, can you describe for any listeners we have exactly what that is?
Well, somewhere down I was born in Washington, D.C. I didn't grow up there, but I came back after college, which was 100 years ago, 1980. And there was a wonderful bookstore up on the Chevy Chase, Maryland, D.C. border, a used bookstore. And I saw this book about picture narrative about Gertrude Stein and her Paris Salon.
Right.
And I bought the book for a few pennies back then and
right.
brought it home and was captivated and just always had at the back of my mind, gee, one day I can do that, which seemed kind of crazy since I was always moving, it seemed. But lo and behold, I finally got it going in Washington, and it's kind of morphed into its own thing as I...
What is the it exactly?
So Gertrude Stein started out with a goal of being a doctor, an MD.
Okay.
And like many Americans back in the 20s, I think it still happens, the 30s, before she started her residency, as I understand it, she and her brother Leonard went off to Paris and maybe other places before she plunged into that. And she so fell in love. It was the right place, the right time, 20s, before, after was London as the it place for anarchists and artists and philosophers and writers, but she showed up at the right time. So a lot of writers and philosophers who were not just from France or Paris were coming into Paris, like Hemingway and Picasso, for example.
Right.
Well, she was a gold spoon child, not just silver. And at one point she realized she did not want to be a doctor. So she was a trust fund, and she just called, I guess, mom and dad and said, at that time they were out in San Francisco. But I think she may have been from Ohio. I could be wrong. But anyway, so I guess it was, hey, mom and dad, I decided to just be a benefactor and help artists in their career. And lo and behold, the money, I guess, was sent to her because she never, ever returned, even when the Nazis occupied Paris and the Vichy regime was in. She never returned to the state. I mean, maybe holidays or something, I don't know.
Right.
But she just settled to the south of France with her assistant, who turned out was actually her romantic partner back in those days. He didn't say that.
Was that Leo or Alice?
Alice, yeah.
Okay. Alice B. Toklas.
Yeah, exactly.
Who
was a writer in her own right.
Right. So this is how she came to be sort of in the center of this group of artists and writers. And then how did it become sort of what we call a salon? How did she make that happen?
She didn't give birth to it. In fact, as I did research when I started this in Washington, it turns out that actually very wealthy women of North Africa started it. So I hate to say it. Once again, the Europeans have hijacked an idea.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know.
How surprising. Hold the presses.
Right, exactly. And I thought, isn't that interesting? So back in the days when women, it wasn't just there, but kind of across the board in many cultures and times, women were not so much welcomed in the public realm. But if they were especially wealthy women, they brought the world inside.
Okay.
So that's what they did with their time. And again, it was the same concept of bringing people together, talking, kind of intimate gatherings. And
right.
You had the backdrop of servants and whatnot helping out. I don't know. I wish I was back there in Paris with Gertrude Stein. I would have loved to just sit back and take it all in. But I think hers was a little more of a casual kind of way, kind of bohemian type of thing, like the Blumenberg up in London.
It's funny. I did not know that story of how it got started, and all of a sudden it makes sense. If she had deep pockets, because I know she was quite the art collector.
Yes.
And I should have connected the dots. Then the artists are going to be like, oh, this woman's buying, and she's invited us for dinner.
Yeah.
Other fun people are going to be there.
Yeah.
So it seems like maybe it just sort of started naturally.
I think so. I think, she's an outsider. I don't know if she spoke French or not, possibly.
Right.
But again, timing and place. Timing is almost everything. And she picked up something, or she just so fell in love with the city like many do.
Right.
And said, that's it. I don't want to be a doctor. I want to hang out with artists and writers and poets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she had money.
So you're in D.C. And you get this book in a used bookstore for like $5 or whatever. Right. And you're enchanted.
Yes, absolutely.
By this thing. And what's your next step?
Let's see. I was, doing 9 to 5, various government positions, worked on the Hill at that time. I had just returned, I think, from a lot of history to go back to, but from 83 to 85, I was in Honduras as a Peace Corps volunteer.
Right.
So this would have been after that.
And what were you doing in the Peace Corps?
Let's see. I was assigned to a women's sewing co-op, small entrepreneurial, to help them have money, basically, to live.
And so it was a business kind of thing?
Yes.
And you were assigned to do what there? Here you are, I'm guessing, all gringo.
Right, absolutely.
Heading down there to help out in any way you could.
Yeah.
What kinds of things did you do? What kinds of successes did you have?
Well, I went to one of the poorest barrios right up to the beach. Beautiful beach, by the way, but they were shacks in this kind of Les Cebo's known as a port town because that's where the bananas for the industrialized world came from. And the town, or the city, they would call it small city, was surrounded by pineapple and acres and acres of pineapples and bananas. So just think of all your tropical fruit, Chiquita banana. Yes, we have whatever her name was back in the 20s or whatever.
Oh, yeah, Carmen Miranda.
Right, exactly. So I just started to just introduce myself, and it was all very bizarre and strange. And
was there Peace Corps infrastructure there?
Not really.
You didn't parachute in.
You do parachute in.
Oh my God!
And about 2 weekends before once you pass language and whatever else they threw at us, they give you a town to go to, and you have to figure out what bus station and where you sleep and all of that when you get this, Santa Clara or whatever. And I ended up, oh my goodness, in the middle of, there's parts of Honduras up in the northern area, there's more towns and whatnot, more, and I hate to say industry, but a little more industry. And of course, then you have all the plantations, as I call them. And I went down to the south towards Nicaragua, and it was dirt and dirt poor.
Right.
Curiously enough, so the bus, the Spanish isn't all that good, survival Spanish, and I just started to walk up and down, the 2 or 3 streets, and lo and behold, this man, I said, I'm looking for a place to stay. And I couldn't imagine there was a motel or anything there or whatever. But this one man said, oh, you need to talk to Donia, and she can help you. Well, it turned out that I can't remember her name, but it turned out she was the cook for maybe 5 years prior, the ambassador from Honduras to the U.S.
Nice.
And she returned home.
Nice. So you tracked down Donia?
Well, a man smoking a cigarette on some bench in front of the one and only store.
And you're like 23 or something at this point.
I was a little older. It sounds kind of silly, but back then I graduated in 80, so I had 3 years. And I didn't want to think I was running away from grown-up responsibility by joining Peace Corps. So I went job hunting. And at that time, I went to a college outside of Chicago, but came over with the Carter Mondale campaign as a paid staff for the general election.
Okay.
So, yeah. So back to Honduras. Yeah.
Because I'm fascinating. It sounds terrifying to me. You were 26, let's say.
So I would have, yeah.
26-year-old woman, like straight out of school, and nice sort of first world country.
Comforts and all.
Yeah, you're more or less dumped here. You don't even have a place to stay.
Right.
How did it proceed from this guy sitting on the stump smoking a cigarette, pointing in the direction? Where did you stay that first night?
I think this is the beauty of being kind of young and clueless. I mean,
yeah.
I turned 68 in January, and I look back at some of the things I've done, and I'm like, are you kidding, Michelle? You did that? Or I'm thinking about another person's life.
Right.
And I'm sure that's not unique, but I've kind of hit that place in the stage of life when I just have flashbacks. They aren't PTSD type at all. It's just, wow, you did that. And you're still alive?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of, I was never worried about my safety, but there are some places, yeah, it's kind of weird. Oh, and here was the other interesting character in this little, I wouldn't even call it a village. She introduced me to this Belgian priest who I think was down to about 5 teeth. And I don't think hadn't seen a dentist since he left Belgium. So you can smell him a mile wide. And he was like a friar, if you think of those brown.
Yeah.
That, I don't know how to. So gentle man. And he lived, if this was the town or village, he lived way yonder. And there's mountains in the southern part where I was in the flat area, right, of the country. And he asked if I would be interested in going on a tour. He has a donkey, and if I would like to join him, and he would give me a tour of the mountainside.
And you're like,
I'm not making this
sure, what could possibly go wrong?
And I said, okay. Yeah.
And all right, so back to this, if you do recall, I mean, where did you find lodging that first night?
Oh, I stayed with Donia, the former cook.
Okay.
Yeah, she took me in.
Okay.
And she had one granddaughter, absolutely lovely little girl, maybe about 5 or 6. I have pictures of her in my weekend retreat to test to see if we're really up to the muster to be a Peace Corps volunteer.
Right.
And she took me in with all that hospitality that the Hondurans have.
How long did you stay there?
It was 2 nights and a very dangerous bus ride, and they have a lot of old American buses that don't pass inspection, get shipped down to Central America.
So 2 nights in this town, you said to pass muster. Was it some sort of a test, a trial by fire?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Oh my God.
Exactly.
Peace Corps sounds pretty tough.
Yeah, I think it was even tougher in the 60s and 70s.
Oh, I'll bet.
At those reunions I'd go to, a lot of they call themselves the Kennedy kids, that first 2 generations. And when you think about it, there weren't even payphones where these folks went to.
Right.
And I'm glad I went when I did, as opposed to all this cell phone and internet and mobile technology. I don't think it's the same experience. I mean, it was pretty remote. Now, I started in I was assigned to a town after I survived that weekend with the help of the Belgian priest and the Doña cook for it. I figured the food would be pretty safe because she worked, for the ambassadors. So that was, I have to admit, having done Montezuma Revenge during the training. So that did crop up in my mind based on history.
And then you take this dangerous bus ride to where?
Oh, it was all dirt, rocky, along the mountain edge. And I wasn't quite sure if Peace Corps knew what it was doing, but they did.
They did?
Yeah.
And where was the terminus? Where did it drop you off?
At that town and then back. And then you take the bus back. You had to be back, by, I don't know, what Sunday night.
See.
Yeah, sorry.
I see.
I'm bouncing around.
And back to where?
Tegucigalpa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tegucigalpa.
Yeah.
Which was a bigger town.
The capital. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Tegucigalpa.
Yeah, that's where the training is. Wherever you go, it's always the training's in the capital, and you stay with the host family.
Uh-huh.
And you go through language, cross-cultural, and then technical training.
Right.
Yeah.
So how long were you in Tegucigalpa?
3 months.
Okay.
And this is another interesting thing. I was a poli-sci international relations major. So good news, bad news, more bad news. But when our group of trainees, you aren't called a Peace Corps volunteer until you pass everything. So during training, we're all in the city before we're assigned a job to do in a town. The International Press Corps was swarming into Tegucigalpa because Reagan's Contra-War started.
Egads.
Yeah.
So you were in Tegucigalpa for 3 months.
Yes.
And you finishing your training.
Yes.
And what does that training entail?
Mostly language and cross-cultural.
Right. To understand the cultural differences and stuff.
And I think within a month, there's one woman who, she was a nurse, which is like to this day anywhere in the world is desperately needed.
Right.
And the second night she comes knocking on the door of my host family. She was about, 5 little homes down. It was kind of a middle class family.
Uh-huh.
And she said, I can't take it. I'm going home. I think she was from California, about in her 30s, late 20s. And she said, this is it. And then we lost another one who was wonderful. I thought she's kind of hippie from Montana.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, okay, rough and tumble, cold weather. Okay, this is hot, granted. But before we even had the graduation ceremony, she bailed out and she said, I don't need this. Anyway, she went off to have a great job as an electrical designer at the University of Seattle or somewhere. But I was surprised.
Did you think at all during the training that you might just bag and say,
no matter how sick I got or how, not at all.
Huh.
I came across someone when I was in high school who did Peace Corps in a country in Africa, I don't recall.
Uh-huh.
And I was just captivated.
Right.
And it was always on my to-do list, back of my mind.
Right.
Always.
So what do you think it was inside of you that got inside of you before you went to Honduras that made you stick it out, that made you not one of the people? I mean, if lots of people were like, oh, it's not for me, then the door's sort of open for anybody to say,
right.
Oh, it's
exactly.
not for me. But you didn't. Why do you think that is?
It's a good question. I think curiosity and a personal challenge.
Right.
And I like living overseas and try to understand the people as much as an outsider can.
Right.
And with, basically inadequate language, you can never be them completely. I don't care where you go. That culture thing from knee high up is pretty in all of our DNA, but at least to get on some kind of level of appreciation and understanding.
Right.
And I think also at the time with the whole thing of our neighbors to the back, I think there also was, and being a poli-sci international relations major, there was always a lot of kind of bad-mouthing people to the South, especially Mexicans and all.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to experience the different groups of people from in the different countries and not get it through someone else's opinion or whatnot, or interpretation.
And were there other people in your family who were sort of intrepid perseverers?
None.
None? What about your folks?
Well, my dad went to Georgetown School. This is kind of funny. My dad went to, funny in kind of a sad or bittersweet way. My dad, he was a World War II person, and he went off to war. And although he didn't make it because he punctured his lung during boot camp.
Oh, no.
So that ruled him out to go in. So they put him off on a desk job. So he went to the school, Georgetown School of Foreign Service, with the goal of being a Foreign Service officer. Right. And I think my mom wanted that too because she loves hostessing. But
it's hilarious.
It didn't happen. So early into the marriage, it didn't work out the way they both had planned. But
to be an ambassador and host grand parties.
Right. And of course, none of these folks think about going to the most challenging hardship post, even though they get paid more. They're all thinking,
Yeah.
Comfortable life. Well, no matter where they are, they're still living a comfortable life. But I suspect, I don't know, is he didn't pass one of the two parts of the exam, and he had mouths to feed, young bride, and needed to get on it, so he became a businessman. But the point of all that is that's the backdrop. But I was introduced just by their presence of books about world affairs. And I seemed to be the only child of 5 that had any interest. So my dad kind of took me to these international things when we lived in Tennessee.
When you lived in
Great decisions and things like that. When I look back, I'm thinking, I am only in grade school. I guess my mom didn't want to go. So the middle child got dragged down. But I actually enjoyed it. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I understood a thing. But
right. I mean, you don't often as a kid, but then you can sort of process it later on.
Exactly. It was a building block, I think.
Yeah. In Tennessee, this is out of left field. Where did you live in Tennessee and how come?
Signal Mountain, Tennessee.
Okay.
So I was born in Washington, and then we just, one of my older sisters, and then we moved across the border, no big deal, to Maryland. Right. In Bethesda.
Were your folks Southerners?
No, they both were from Pennsylvania. Okay. And the goal of getting out of Carbondale outside of Scranton was, and this is back in the 50s, to get out. Right. A little coal mine town. Right. And then my dad went to Penn State and then was drafted. So on a GI Bill, he went off to the School of Foreign Service. Right. Which meant every 2 to 4 years back in those days, like IBM really means to the families of employees, I've been moved. So it was that kind of situation. They can't get away with it as much now, but, who cares about the family? Keep moving. Right. So with every promotion, my dad got a new assignment.
Okay. And one of them was in Signal Mountain.
Right. And that was after we lived here for 4 years. Actually, this was a long haul.
By here, you mean here in Rhinebeck?
Yeah. I went to Buckley. Kindergarten through 3rd grade, and the last quarter got yanked out because the company said move. So
what was the company?
It was Equifax at the time, Retail Credit.
Uh-huh. Wow. So where did you come to Rhinebeck from?
Atlanta. Okay.
So, but you were born in D.C.
Yes.
So, D.C., Atlanta, were there other places in between?
Then there was, after Tennessee, and this was a real culture shock, even more than Rhinebeck to Tennessee. Right. Because the topography was the same, a lot of big rocks and boulders and trees. I love trees. We went up to the suburbs of Chicago, and I'm just like, where are the trees, Dad? And to this day, I feel really bad when he pulled up to the house. Here's your new home, kids. dead silence.
Which suburb?
Let's see, there were a few of them. Bartlett at the time. And it was, just recently the corn fields were taken over by...
Right.
But it still had a little village part to it back in those days, not anymore.
Right.
So that was it. That was probably the most alien thing I ever saw. Such flat land with no trees.
Right. And how long were you all there?
Actually, the longest, halfway through 6th grade, again, pulled out middle of.
Egads.
6th grade through 12th grade. Then I went to college up in Lake Forest, Illinois, in the North Shore.
Wait, 6th grade through 12th grade in this little town, suburb of Chicago.
Then we moved to Bartlett, and then then my parents moved to Arlington when I was already
you were in
college.
Chicagoland for 6th
and
through
most
12th.
of my activities with my well-to-do boyfriend, we spent a lot of time in Chicago. Also, by the way, it turned out his father, we friends of him, I won't say his name. Well, he was in the mafia.
Oh, geez.
And we always joked about it. And I look back now, he never challenged it. He would just stay quiet and say, oh, you idiots, like
right.
kids do.
And you had
I explained the kind of
was
unusual life of high school dating as opposed to going to McDonald's or something. I mean, I didn't know this at the time. You're just doing your life as a kid.
So did you look back on it and see the signs like, oh, right, Guido had this or that, or Vinny?
His father was handsome.
Right.
Tall, dark, and handsome, right out of Central Casting.
Yeah.
And he was never around. And they had this adorable Greek mother, I think first generation American.
Uh-huh.
And the sweetest woman, and his lunch bag was packed, and the rest of us had
right.
Yeah.
A piece of bread in a whole beautiful Greek lunch.
Yeah.
But did you look back, or at the time were there things that made you think, oh, wait a minute?
No. Nope.
Right. And how did you get wind of this fellow? Let's call him Vinny, just for kicks.
Yeah, they're all Vinny, right?
Vinny's demise.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a book title. How did you first hear about Vinny's demise?
I think I could be wrong, but I think it was the Sun-Times or the Chicago Tribune.
Right.
Some kind of indictment for loan sharking or something.
And how old would Vinny have been when he met his maker?
He was young.
Right.
There was a liver problem.
Right.
Very nice. The whole family was so nice.
Right.
And they had the Greek grandmother there, and and he literally was the boy next door.
Right.
Because my dad and my mom were tired of big houses and yards. I mean, they're not big mansions like around here, but
right.
So they moved into a condo. 2 kids are out. We're down to 3. The next one's going, and we just don't. They downsized before the last 3 were out.
Right.
They were just done with.
So 2 kids were out. So you have 2 older siblings,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and 1 younger?
2 younger.
2 younger. Wow, 5 kids.
Yeah.
So did that take the sting out of moving around so much? Having your siblings be this constant?
Mm-mm. No. I think we were all just out. This is you didn't have this kind of insight. It was just so different. You just get up in the morning, you did it. And all my friends were kind of born and raised in the same area. Skokie, or, it was kind of a diverse group of people. And,
right.
And one Mexican, Jewish, boyfriend, Italian Catholic, and
right.
And Steve and David, and
so
they were very everyone was kind of secular, but
right.
Had to go to Catholic church because you're at your parents' home.
Yeah. So you graduated. You went to Lake Forest, where
College at
where
the
my
time.
mom went to college for a couple of years.
All right.
And also where Mr. T famously bought a house.
Really, I didn't know
25, 30 years ago, and he had all these allergies, and he cut down all of the trees on his 7-acre property, so that he wouldn't have this allergic reaction.
Oh my gosh!
And of course, the scientists are like, well, you'd have to cut them in like 100-mile radius to make any difference. But Lake Forest, famous for my mom going to the university there, and Mr. T. So what did you study at Lake Forest College?
Political science with the emphasis. By the way, did you know, just to follow up what you were sharing, Ordinary People, Robert Redford was filmed there. It was being filmed at the time that I was there. Yeah.
Yeah, what a blast.
Yeah, because when they showed street scenes, oh yeah, I know where that is and all.
What a fabulous movie that was.
Yeah, Barrett College is the sister college to Manhattanville.
Okay.
At the time, it was all women's college, and the Sacred Heart Nuns is a French order founded by Madeleine Sophie Barra. T is silent in French, as we know, and I had a couple of nuns. Most of them were lay people, professors from mostly University of Chicago.
Right.
Those who graduate from there.
And did you graduate Lake Forest?
No, Barrett College.
Oh, okay.
But that's where the boys were.
Oh, gotcha. and then you graduated. Where'd you go after that?
Well, I was doing junior year abroad, my junior year, obviously. And so I was in France and one semester in France and one in England when Margaret Thatcher came into power. So it was an interesting time to be in the UK. And they had the biggest trucking strike. So when I showed up, there were very little food on the shelf and shared a flat, like you have in Washington and Philly and New York, with an Englishman and a foreign student. They were all students at the University of Kent in Canterbury. And the Ghanaian gentleman he kept asking me for the first month, how did your parents allow you to come alone?
Right.
And then he bought me a gold cross, a little, very elegant little cross. So God and Jesus will take care of me.
That's
so he
sweet.
took me on as his little sister. It was so endearing.
And it worked out. You got taken care of.
It did. Yeah, the no heat in just the pince,
So you did this junior year abroad.
Yeah, and then I came back, and it was kind of anticlimactic to be back on campus.
In the U.S.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
And specifically the dorm and all that routine. I was kind of... So the 1989 primary started to kick in.
Right.
So I kind of stood my ground, with my, what do you call them? Not counselors, the academic, what do you call them? Advisor, thank you. Irene Rothenberg. And she said, looking at your course selection, you do not have one course in Latin America studies. Now there's a punchline here, and I'll get to it.
All right.
And I said to her, this is long before Peace Corps and all, I said, Dr. Rothenberg, I really don't care that much about Latin America, in all due respect. And that was her favorite part of the universe.
Right.
And she said, I'll have to think about it. And she said, come back next week this time. I came back, and she said, no, I can't see you your senior year doing an entire internship. And I said, I really need to do this because it's going to get me a job in Washington. Did I believe that? No. But I wanted to at least try. I'd rather fail, but I don't want someone to say no and not even giving me the possibility of failing or succeeding.
Right.
Because I end up living with it. Like, I should have fought harder for it.
Right.
So, and I was not a good student. I would show up at the library, and I look for a book that I knew I needed for a research paper, and I found one that was even more interesting, and I would end up plopping at a table, and I'd start reading it until the work study student said 15 minutes and the library closes, and I had no idea. So I just grabbed the books I needed for my paper and did it, basically. I don't know. So I could see where she was frustrated with me because I was not, a brilliant student.
Not a good student, but
No.
you had a great sense of curiosity about
but
the world.
it did not work. Maybe in science, but in the humanities, I think it was a real struggle for me.
Right.
And all the professors.
Oh, boy. And so they kicked you out after 4 years.
Yeah, I did everything, but it was pretty mediocre.
Right.
But here's the punchline. Fast forward to I got a job with a senator and from Maryland, and in the cafeteria, you can't make this up. In the cafeteria, I see these long legs and long hair with a very interesting, unique stride.
Uh-huh.
in the cafeteria in the Dirksen office building. This is about 1981.
Okay.
And I said, oh my gosh, I think this is Dr. Rosenberg. So I moved up and I looked and I said, Dr. Rosenberg? I got up to her side to see her face. And she looked at me, and much to my surprise, I guess bad kids and really good students are remembered. I think the ones that got B-, but the irritants and the wow kids, you know, and I'm proud that they, So I guess I was definitely in the lousy student category. And the competition of will with this determination. She did sign off, and I think it was just to get rid of me. You know, she's a loser. Just go. Where do I sign?
So what emotions did her face betray in the cafeteria
that day? She was
that
shocked.
Yeah.
Good question. And she said, what are you doing here? And I said, I work here.
And this is, you're on
she
the
almost
hill,
dropped the tray.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, my job was entry level, but I read everything that came through that front office. I listened to all the talk and who was seeing the senator and who wasn't, all this stuff that wouldn't pass muster on a grade,
right,
an academic paper,
right,
or test.
Right.
But it was satisfying why I signed up for this job. And I said, I just started working here about a year ago. And she said, really? And I said, well, yeah. And then I remember, this is why I wanted that internship. Wow. I said, so nice to see you. What a coincidence. And then she proceeded to, I didn't want to be nosy or anything. And she said she was here for a international professors of Latin America studies conference.
Right. And within, if my math is correct, within 2 years, you were on a bus on a rocky road in Honduras.
Mm-hmm. So I quit the job with Senator Sarbanes because he had the same staff that he had from the House side, so there was no upward mobility.
Right.
So I found out the man who headed up the Get Out the Vote campaign, Tim Ridley, who I just found out passed away about 20 years ago, very young, with 2 small children, so it's a heartbreak. So he was hired as the campaign manager for Frank Lautenberg of New Jersey for his first bid. So I was still a little tied into all these campaign groupies, I guess, and I knew there was nowhere to go with Sarbanes' office, so I called and he said, sure, I can have the field manager interview you. So I took a train up to wherever it was, Newark, I guess, interviewed with this gentleman whose name I can't remember. We just kind of hit it off. He says, okay, we'll give you Monmouth and Ocean County. And I'm thinking, I took the train back. I said, they realize I have no experience doing county work. So I think this helped prepare, and also being a child of a family who moved all the time.
Right.
This is kind of the norm. You wing it.
And you winged, so you did. And
I met another mafioso there.
In New Jersey?
What a surprise.
Not New Jersey.
7 degrees of separation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was lovely. He took me out to a very nice restaurant and talked. He was a complete gentleman.
Right.
On all levels. There was no concern. And he just went on and talked about, the party, politics, and what I mentioned nothing about. But I later found out that he...
I love that. So you're attracting a certain type of
I think it's
fella.
The tall and the dark, handsome, men. I think I've always versus
shabby.
The Scandinavian. So he just it was nice. And the conversation was interesting, and he filled me in a lot on local politics, which was very helpful.
So
I just sat there. I can tell you. And also, this is just someone to have dinner with, and she's young,
right.
and I can feel big, and it's probably older men and younger. They can look like the big cheese and all knowledge, but I had no problems because I was learning from him.
Right.
I was learning about New Jersey politics and Monmouth and Ocean County. Well, Monmouth, he was from.
And did your candidate win that election?
Yep, he did.
So.
And then I got a job. As legislative assistant, but before I got it, I got the letter the invitation to Peace Corps. They don't call you Peace Corps volunteer, but you're invited to go through it.
But you had expressed interest, certainly, or do they just like pick out?
Oh yes, it takes about 9 months from the day they get the application to when they actually
invite
so
you.
we call it the pregnancy application in our circles.
And they invite you to come in and interview, or
no, it's all application. At that time, I think things have changed a lot, but I think it's 6 references you need.
Wow.
And an essay.
Right.
And if you don't have enough community service, they ask you to go out and do more.
Right.
Yeah.
And had you had enough community service?
I did not. So I ended up teaching, I started to teach kids who are struggling with reading.
Right.
In Washington. So that application went in before the campaign finished. So I was staying with my great aunt, I think, in Toms River, New Jersey. So that worked out really well too.
Okay.
I saved the campaign some money because they didn't have to.
Yeah.
Or finding a.
But then the staff job was back on the hill.
Yeah, and then I left. I guess it was a few months later, so I wasn't there very long with Frank Lautenberg.
Right.
So when I called from my great aunt's home and I told my mom, they were up in Buffalo at the time, and I said I was accepted into Peace Corps training, and she said, "And where are they sending my daughter?" What is it? With that tone of voice.
And did you know at that point where you were going to get sent?
No.
Right. Sorry, Mom. Oh my God.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did know it was Honduras.
Oh, okay.
And then it was an April 1983 appointment with the unknown.
So you're working at Frank Lautenberg's office there on the hill, and is this the point where you stepped into the used bookstore?
It was, I think that happened when I was working for Paul Sarbanes of Maryland.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, but you found the book and then went to Honduras.
Yep.
And then came back from Honduras. And what did you do when you returned?
My first job was at the SEC.
Okay.
And
the Security Exchange Commission.
And there was a lot of shenanigans going on, a lot of scandal with
again. Shocked to find out there's scandal.
E.F. Hutton and everyone was saying their register rep was ripping them off.
Yeah.
So I went into panic mode because I said to my older sister who had a really nice job in the ad industry in Chicago, and I said, I know nothing about the SEC.
Right.
I mean, I know there's this thing called Wall Street, and that was it. And she said, when I was going into the interview, she said, Michele, tell them what they want to hear. And if you get the job, then you worry, but you have 2 weeks to figure it out.
Right.
And that's the best advice to go for going into an interview.
Right.
If you believe you can, fake it to that old. So I went to Borders or something when I was offered the job and got a glossary on Wall Street glossary or whatever. And that's when I understood. Then I knew what golden parachute and mergers and all this stuff.
Right. Huh.
It was pretty scandalous times there. So I was in investment services. So when letters of complaints came to the members of Congress or directly to the commissioner's office, they would be sent to our office to do the research.
Right.
And then write back. And this was back in the days when we had legal pads, not computers.
Right.
And I loved it. I really loved it.
And how long did you stay?
18 months. And unfortunately, I went off to the EPA.
The EPA?
Yep. Nice.
And where were you working when you decided you wanted to host your first salon?
I think it was when I came back. I worked 5 years as a civilian at an Air Force base in Germany.
Egads.
2000, 2005.
Uh-huh.
And that was an education. And
so what were the most shocking things that you came to understand about?
Well, I really felt sorry for a lot of the young women and men because unlike the State Department and Peace Corps, they put a lot of time in cross-cultural sensitivity awareness,
right.
And wasn't happening with the folks. And I guess they think, well, they aren't going out to the culture.
Right.
They're kind of in a little America in all these spaces. But as someone trained as a clinical social worker, I didn't do any therapy. I did the outreach work to try to help people who needed help, to let them know there's no shame in it, and to be of support to the trailing spouse. And that's what I did. But
right.
We would kind of say they really need to do more training and prep. Instead, for a lot of these folks, they had never been out of their small towns, let alone out of America. So it's a big culture shock.
So it sounds like you're doing sort of the work of a clinical social worker or master's of social work. I mean, did you have training in this kinds of stuff?
Yeah, what do they call us in academia? Mature student, which means a polite way of saying an old student. I was one of those.
Yeah.
So I had a nice job at Peace Corps. Oh, I went out to California because everyone talks about how great California was.
Right.
So I left the EPA, had no idea where the next paycheck, and I just lived off my TSP savings account and headed over there. And it was the worst time to go over. It was early 90s.
In California.
And the economy was horrible. So by day, I worked at Rand McNally. And by night, this is also at the height of the disease.
In the 90s?
Yeah.
AIDS,
thank you. So I worked with a group who campaigned for National Organization of Women to help women in shelters and all. And I remember they'd pick us up at about 8 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock, I guess, and we'd do it for 2 hours.
Right.
Not old-fashioned canvassing. And I was, along with about 4 others, dropped in a very predominantly gay community. And keep in mind, first time I've ever been in San Francisco, right?
Right.
And I didn't know all of this. And one after another, a man would answer the door and be very polite. Some would give. Most of them said, "I'm barely making it. My partner is dying of AIDS." I mean, it was just horrible.
It was a terrible time for them.
Absolutely. On so many levels, it was a horrible time to be.
Oh, yeah.
In San
Medically,
Francisco.
Politically, socially.
And economically. It was, I mean, it was just, and they were also, very kind and gentle, and you could just see how tired they were as being the carer. And I said, you are doing your work. Don't worry. And after that, I said, I can't do this. This, put me in a different neighborhood or something. This is, why are we going to this neighborhood? They got enough going on.
Right.
But so I got a job at Rand McNally bookstore, which was wonderful, or the Map. Back in the days, they had it right on Market Street, and everyone was fraction of my age, college kids. But they were great. I loved it, and I love reading and maps, and also I was like, okay. And then by night, I did calling up, do market research.
Okay.
And that was another shocking thing because the economy was so bad. A lot of people with degrees and wore suits to work were working there because they got laid off.
Right.
And you could see them holding on to their dignity.
Right.
Dressed like they were heading off to work to do market research on the phone.
Love that. And is that where, trying to get back to the salon?
Back to the salon. So then when I
salon?
came back, I got a job at Peace Corps, and that's when it started to hit a little more. And then, love got in the way. And then,
Love got in the way.
Blame it on something outside myself. And then, so it was 2005 when I came back from Germany, is when I said, okay, Gertrude and I have a date. Enough is enough. And I didn't feel like I was going to be going anywhere. This is it. I'm staying in Washington. And that's when I started.
Gertrude and I have a date.
Well,
yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. So you modeled your first salon after Gertrude Stein's famous salons. Did you have a wealthy benefactor to help you?
None. Came out of my humble civil servant pocketbook.
And did you become a collector of art and
Actually,
artists?
yes. Oh, I forgot. I worked. I worked at I was a director of a gallery called Grisco Gallery in Washington.
I love that. Oh, by the way, I forgot.
I completely forgot.
I went to Germany for 4 years, right? And I forgot about the.
Yeah. Oh, well, then there was London, and then I came back.
It's quite a life you've had.
Well, that's why I have a hard time keeping track of it because a lot of on the road. But that's right. I came back, and there was a job in Craigslist looking for a director of a gallery, and I thought, oh, it's one of these little ones in Georgetown or something, off the back streets or something. Lo and behold, it was museum quality artwork. And I said, wow, I'm way over my head on this, and I've never managed a gallery in my life. But apparently the previous gallery managers kind of walked out and left. So, timing again, she was desperate to get someone in there. And the mere fact that I had a couple of very humble photography exhibitions and very humble little galleries, that was enough for her to say, okay, get in there and start paying the bills.
And so you were, at the time you were an artist, a photographer in your own right.
Self-trained, yeah.
And what kinds of things were you shooting?
People.
Really?
Mm. Yeah.
I've got exhibit 1 right here.
Uh-oh. Guilty as charged.
And so you were shooting people in the German countryside?
Yes. There was a German who used to run the labs back in the days when there was more film, labs, right, to do the developing.
Right.
And he was long retired, but Bitburg, Germany, close to the Luxembourg border, you kind of stumble across each other. And this, I don't know, somehow I met this elderly man. He was probably in his 70s. And we just got talking shop about photography. And little by little, and this is, I think, in 2005 or 2004, I said, for as long as I can remember, I wanted to give honor to older people, especially coming from a culture that dismisses you aren't contributing to the economy, who cares about you, right?
Right.
So he said, I can get you hooked up with some village people. And he did. He was true to his word. He talked to them first, and we're talking hamlets, I think, is even better.
Right.
Smaller than a Pine Plains.
Right.
And these are old guard Germans. You don't talk about money. You don't talk about yourself. You aren't, wanting someone to photograph you and all of that kind of humility, which is a lot what I was raised from my mom like that.
Right.
And my dad, because don't be too happy as being Irish. Something bad could happen tomorrow. Right. So from both cultures, so I understood that. And I said, don't push it if they say yes. And he ended up getting 5 women and 5 men. And then would drive me, introduce, and we'd schedule a time to do it. And then it's a different kind of German there.
And do you have...
So I did it.
Yeah, it's the Eifel region of Germany. Is that what it said?
Yeah, the Eifel. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so did you speak any of that dialect?
No, I did try, and I can't say it's a regret. There's only so much time in the day. I was working a full-time job, and I kind of wanted to do the photography. That was my priority.
Right. Well, there's only so much time in the day. There's only so much time in this hour, and we have
that's it.
4 minutes left. And I really want to hear about the salon.
Yeah.
And how it started and what's happening next.
So I ended up, just with my network of friends and whatnot, started to have people come and talk. A journalist, investigative journalist, a State Department whistleblower about 9/11 and the story we were fed versus what he feels is a different story, which, by the way, is kind of interesting that the guy from Fox News, who now has his own podcast, is now saying a lot of the same things that my friend at the time shared with us.
What things are those? I'm not tuned in.
That there was some understanding about 9/11.
Right.
Anyway, so...
The gentle way of saying it. Something interesting.
So he came and talked about his book, Visas for Al-Qaeda, and lost his job when he asked too many questions, I guess. This is his, his interpretation. And then a friend of mine was, she worked at Peace Corps but couldn't stand working in a bureaucracy. And she had an aunt who did consulting work for Peace Corps. And lo and behold, she grew up in in China, where they had a French concern, and then the British had theirs, like the empires.
Right.
And she was of Russian Jewish, and the only place that would let, with all the things going on in Russia under the Tsarist regime, so China was the only country out there taking. And so she was born there. So she came, and she was a professor at Boston College and MIT.
These are all people who you invited to your apartment.
To come and tell their story.
To tell their story.
Like what you're doing here.
Groups of your friends.
Yeah.
Right. Well, hopefully groups of my friends are listening tonight. And you started to really love hosting these things,
love
I'm
it.
guessing.
I have that from my mom, I think.
All right. Well, let me skip ahead because we have 3 minutes left.
Okay.
How did you come back to Rhinebeck?
Well, I had been away overseas for a long time, especially by my parents' standards, and I think I knew that there was it was time to come back, especially since they were that generation, World War II folks.
Right.
Were getting old, and
so they were living around here?
Florida at the time.
Oh.
So I just decided in 2005 to come back.
Okay.
I was in England at the time.
Back to the U.S.
Yeah.
And then how did you get back to Rhinebeck?
And then I got a job with the federal government in Bedford for 3 years, Massachusetts.
My goodness.
And then I decided, well, if I can't be in Europe, where would I want to be in America?
And you had fond memories?
I did.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. So now I'm sorry to just rush through this. We had such a delightfully languid chat. So you moved here and you got a place here. Mm-hmm. And how has it been? Has it been nice being back?
No regrets.
That's so nice. And now you restarted the salon, mm-hmm. and you've had a couple of them here. Who's going to be there at tomorrow's salon?
I think a lot of people would know her, Martha Honey.
Uh-huh.
And she was, and I don't know how I found out about her. I think it was doing Google research, and her name came up about ecotourism.
Right.
And then as I read more about her, it turned out that she and her husband were both journalists, and they were living in Costa Rica at the time of the Contra War.
Right. So she's coming to your apartment here.
And she's going to talk
and you've got,
her
you
life.
Said 20 or so people coming to listen. Will you interview her? Or will she
No, I will. I'm kind of behind the camera, but right. I do the 2-minute introduction. I have a large buffet spread, and then I turn it over to her.
And if somebody you said behind the camera, can I see these things on YouTube or something?
Oh, no, I'm just saying I don't go up and talk too much. I just quickly introduce her. I do send a biography about who's going to be the presenter.
Gotcha. So we've got 10 seconds left. If anybody listening wanted to go tomorrow mm-hmm. to the latest salon mm-hmm. from Michele Linnen and Martha Honey talking, how would they be welcome?
Yes.
Could they email you?
Yes, they can.
Okay, what's your email?
It's Linnen, Linnen, Michele, Michele at gmail.com.
Well, thank you, Michele Linnen, for being here.
Yeah, we have about 24 people coming.
And you and I could have talked to you for 24 hours. The things you've done, just fascinating. I hope you have a fabulous event tomorrow. Thank you so much for coming in. Everybody, thanks for listening. Thanks to the Epicurean for hosting us. Thanks to producer extraordinaire Jen Hammoud. If you're listening, have a good Friday and a fabulous weekend.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you,
nice
Michele Linnen.
Thank you.